Today, we're going to dive into the mystery of one of Australia's most elusive and, frankly, most fascinating creatures, the Kultarr.
So let me just ask you straight up. Have you ever heard of a Kultarr? If you're drawing a blank right now, don't worry, you are in good company.
Yeah, the truth is, most people have never even heard the name. And this isn't just a fun fact for trivia night. We're talking about an animal so hard to find that even the experts, the field researchers who spend their lives out there, have an incredibly tough time just spotting one.
And that's exactly why it's earned this awesome, kind of spooky nickname, Australia's ghost marsupial. It's an animal that seems to exist right on the very edge of what we can see and what we can study. You know, there's a scientific term for this. It's called a cryptic species. And that's really just a formal way of saying this animal is an absolute master of hide and seek, so good at it that studying it in its own home is next to impossible. So, what does this ghost even look like? Well, picture a tiny carnivore, about the size of a mouse, that is completely nocturnal. It's got these huge eyes and ears, perfect for navigating in the pitch black, and a long tail with this really unique, brush-like tip.
Okay, now this is where the mystery really gets interesting. Because even if you did manage to spot a Kultarr, you might not even realize what you're looking at.
At first glance, a Kultarr looks almost identical to a native hopping mouse. I mean, they live in the same harsh, arid places, and they can both book it at nearly the same top speed. But that's where the similarities stop. The Kultarr is a marsupial, with a pouch, while the hopping mouse is a placental mammal, just like us. Plus, the hopping mouse gets around on 2 feet, while our little ghost, the Kultarr, runs on all 4. And this is a brilliant illustration of a concept called evolutionary convergence. It's this wild thing that happens when the pressures of a tough environment, like the Australian outback, push 2 totally unrelated species to come up with similar body plans to survive. It's like nature solving the same problem twice in completely different animals.
So, you gotta wonder, right? How does this tiny little carnivore actually survive in one of the most extreme environments on the entire planet? Well, it turns out it has a few incredible tricks up its sleeve.
Its main superpower is something called torpor. You can think of it like a mini hibernation that it can do every single day. To save precious energy when food is hard to find or the nights get cold, the Kultarr can just dramatically slow down its entire system.
And just how low can it go? This is honestly incredible. A Kultarr's body temperature can plummet to just 11 degrees Celsius. That's 52 degrees Fahrenheit. For a warm-blooded mammal, that is a staggering, almost unbelievable feat of energy conservation.
And what does it hunt with all that saved-up energy? Well, its diet is pretty much what you'd expect for a tiny outback predator. We're talking crickets, cockroaches, beetles, spiders, basically any small invertebrate it can get its paws on.
Because they're so hard to find in the wild, a huge chunk of what we know about the Kultarr's basic biology actually comes from the very few that have been studied up close.
This timeline tells a really critical part of the story. For a brief period, we had this vital window into their world. One captive colony was established in 2002 and a second in 2007. But, and this is so important, both have since been disbanded. Today, there are no Kultarrs in captivity anywhere. That window is now closed.
So what did we learn during that short time? A huge amount. We discovered they can live for over 5 years, that females can breed multiple times in a season, and we gathered all this fundamental data on their health and behavior, information that would have been impossible to get otherwise.
All this limited information has created a really confusing picture for conservationists. I mean, the lack of data from the wild has turned protecting the Kultarr into a major puzzle.
And here's that puzzle laid out. In the state of New South Wales, the Kultarr is listed as endangered. In the Northern Territory, it's considered near threatened, but internationally, it's listed as a species of least concern. So how can one animal be all 3 at the same time?
Well, the answer really lies in local pressures. In places like New South Wales, the threats are severe and they're immediate. You've got habitat destruction from livestock, you've got introduced predators like feral cats and foxes, and the impact of pesticides on their insect food supply. These regional threats explain those really dire local classifications.
This brings us to the biggest challenge of all. With so much conflicting data and so few sightings, what does the future actually hold for the Kultarr?
This quote from researchers Stannard and J really just sums up the core problem perfectly. The Kultarr lives where people don't, which makes it incredibly difficult to gather the basic ecological data we need to manage it effectively. And the list of what we don't know is long.
Are their populations stable? Where exactly do they even live? What habitats do they absolutely need to survive? We're not even 100% sure if the two subspecies are genetically distinct. These aren't minor details. They're the fundamental questions, and they're still unanswered.
Which leaves us with a final, pretty provocative thought. How do you save a species you can barely find? The story of this ghost marsupial is a powerful reminder that for countless animals all over the world, the fight for survival can't even begin until we first solve the basic mystery of who they are and how they live.